My name's Chazz Upton. I'm sure many of you have heard the saying, opposites attract. But what I'm here to tell you today is that opposites can have an impact. You see, we have to ask ourselves this question, why are opposites in our world so surprising? You might be confused by that, so let me give you an example. When an underdog team pulls off the unthinkable and wins against the super football team, why does that surprise us? Or in the movies, when the nerdy girl ends up with the star quarterback, why does that surprise us? Why are we shocked by that? I think one we can all relate to is when we're at youth group and we ask somebody to pray and the quietest student raises their hand, it kind of blows us away. But why? Why does that happen? It's because opposites surprise us when they go against what is expected. In a world full of what we predict to happen, when we think we have everything that's predictable, we know what's going to happen, when the opposite of that happens, it tends to shock us. It surprises us. When an opposite reaction goes against what we know, we stop. We have to pause and we have to think, wait a minute, what just happened? Why did it just happen? This can happen in a variety of places, but one of the most impactful ways that opposites can have an impact is within conflict and anger. You see, God's word calls us as believers to be a peaceful voice in the midst of conflict. And so Proverbs 15:1 summarizes this whole point in a fantastic way. Proverbs 15:1 tells us this: a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. You see, we live in a world of conflict. Conflict is everywhere. It's a part of life. But conflict tends to lead to emotion, and emotion tends to lead to anger. And all of these things are spurred on by our speech, our words. See, culture today regards conflict in a very predictable way. Conflict today in culture is all about who's going to win. Somebody's got to win this conflict. And that tends to be who is going to talk first and who's going to shout the loudest and who is not going to back down. If you want to win conflict, you have to be the feistiest, the toughest fighter out there because you can't back down. And you're going to do that by proving yourself to be the angriest so you can win. But that's the predictable response. And as we know, opposites can make an impact. So I'm here to ask, when we are faced with conflict, when we are faced with anger, what if we had an opposite reaction? What if we took a Proverbs 15:1 respect and we responded with a calm answer? Or we faced anger with gentleness and softness? You see, when we are faced with wrath, there's a predictable way we could fall into this. Wrath is a word that means intense anger or fury. So when we're faced with any sort of conflict, we have to remember that anger builds on top of anger. So when someone responds to you with anger, if you turn back and give them more, it's just going to keep building on top of each other. At that point, your fighting instincts are going to kick in. Your speech will become filled with emotional weapons. These are accusations, insults, degradation. And what happens at the end of this conflict? Everybody's going to walk away scarred. They're going to be hurt. They're going to be damaged. Not just the two involved, but everybody watching. So what if we responded to anger and conflict with an opposite reaction? What if we responded with a gentle voice? You see, gentle means having or showing a kindly or tender nature. So our gentle speech has basically a cooling effect. It defies logic. It defies the predicted response, so that when someone comes at you with anger and you respond with an opposite reaction, it makes an impact. It catches them off guard. It makes them say, wait, hold on, back up. This isn't how this is supposed to go. It eliminates the need to fight. It forces the emotional weapons to not even come out. And in the end, it makes an impact because the two involved, their relationship is probably relatively unscarred and the people watching are changed. I can tell you a quick story about this. When I was a kid in youth group, we went to a hotel. And as you know from youth, we are loud and rambunctious. And I remember going to our hotel room just like that, and a lady comes out of her hotel room, walks right up to our youth pastor, and starts just screaming in his face about how obnoxious we are. And you want to know what my youth pastor did? He took an opposite response. He calmly apologized. He asked for forgiveness, and he said that it wouldn't happen again. And this lady just sort of looked at him and stared at him, just so confused. And the next day, the next time we saw her, she wasn't perfectly changed, but she approached us with a lot more patience. But not only was she impacted by that opposite reaction, but all of us students who were watching, we were impacted too. We were given a prime example of how to handle conflict and anger by taking on a Proverbs 15:1 response, being calm and gentle. You see, conflict is everywhere, anger is everywhere, but one of the greatest ways to make a positive impact is to have a calm response, is to have an opposite response of what's predicted. So when we're faced with conflict, when we're faced with anger, what needs to come to mind is Proverbs 15:1. We need to remember that opposites can make an impact. And to not respond in the predictable way, not respond in this sinful desire, but to exemplify who Jesus is by following his word. So let's remember that when we face conflict, let's respond with a positive impact. Let's respond with an opposite reaction, knowing that not only us involved, but everybody watching will be impacted in a powerful way.